Hey guys, welcome back to Everlasting Summer. I just wanted to apologize for this being a two-parter. Basically, in the middle of the last video, I accidentally pressed the F button, which made the visual novel go into full screen mode, and that kind of canceled out the recording. And since it already stopped, I went ahead and took a break from reading anyway. So here we go. I'm continuing the rest of day 5. It wasn't that the cart that was heavy. It ran smoothly without any noticeable effort required. It was just that any physical action caused pain to me now. Both physical and mental one. I sat down on the bench and closed my eyes for a moment. What's that? I didn't really give a damn who it was. Probably just a fellow pioneer girl taking an interest in an unfamiliar companion in distress. What are you talking about? I asked her tiredly. She didn't reply. Those are the ingredients for a cake. Do you like cakes? I don't know. What, you never tried a cake? I don't know. Obviously the girl didn't get what I was talking about, but it didn't surprise me at that moment. I really wasn't interested in the conversation. I was so tired that I had zero intention of classifying external distractions, tagging them as either common or uncommon. I see. Whew. Come down the canteen later and have a bite. Really? Really. And what are they made of? What? I asked indifferently. These. Cakes. Well, some flour, some sugar, various fillings. Now that a strange question. Doesn't she know what cakes are made of? Have you had it? And have you had it all here? Yeah, sort of. And sugar? And sugar. Could you lend me a little? What for? I thought it was over the top. A sudden gust of wind made me grab that cart instinctively and open my eyes. However, nobody was there. Am I daydreaming? I noticed, though, that the sugar sack was untied and a small heap of it had poured out. Could it be that she was scared by the wind and ran away? Having fixed the sack, I got up from the bench and continued on my challenging strawberry way. There wasn't a single person near the canteen. No wonder dinner was still an hour away. I brought the handcart to the rear exit and handed the foodstuff to the camp cook. She must have already been told what to do with them, as she gave them such an unpleasant look. I'm not sure how long it takes to bake a cake, but it seems she had to hurry. I just wanted to relax for the remaining time up until dinner. In short, I was so tired that I just sat on the steps and waited. My eyes closed themselves. I guess I got so tired throughout the day that I didn't even notice how someone came up to me until they patted me on the shoulder. Hi. Mickey was standing before me. Yeah. I didn't need a mirror to imagine the expression of skepticism and annoyance on my face. Oh, excuse me, I must have interrupted you. No problem, I was just sitting here. All right then, Miku beamed with a smile. I was just coming to dinner. I thought that it's time already, and then it appeared to me that it's too early, but I decided to check just in case. Maybe it's not me who was mistaken, but the clock. Well, not the clock. Clocks can't be mistaken. It's just that I misread it. She seemed to be ultimately confused and fell silent. It's still about half an hour before dinner. Well, that's great then. I'll sit here and wait with you if you don't mind. Frankly speaking, I do mind. You know, I have some matters to attend to. I stood up quickly and left without saying goodbye, ignoring Miku as I always did, while she screamed something after me. A minute later, I got to the square and sat on the bench, with the firm intention of finding a quiet, safe place here to wait for dinner. I think this is the first time in the last 4.5 days when I felt like this. I was just irritated because of some insignificant details, but indeed I was really angry. I've completely stopped caring about where I am and why I am here. I don't care about how to get out either. What's driving me mad is that I always have to carry out some stupid task given by our camp leader, and it's always me who gets in stupid situations, and sometimes even ends up looking like a clown. If all of this is some alien trick or a plot of the universal mind, they better consult with their psychiatrist, whatever. I gritted my teeth and clenched my fist. And the most annoying thing is that everything that happens seems to be happened by itself somehow. I'd be happier not having to carry around bags of sugar that weigh a ton, but I had no choice at all. I mean, any other option would lead to much worse consequences than a muscle strain or hurt pride. Who are you angry with? Ulyana was standing in front of me and smiled slyly. Nobody, really, I answered absently. Well, my fist gave me away, just like that. Okay, it's up to you. You better tell me why did you run around the camp the whole day with some kind of bags? I had to, I replied reluctantly. I guess it was food. Maybe it was. Ulyana was about to say something, but at that moment, the bell rang calling the pioneers for dinner. I sighed in relief and quickly headed to the canteen, leaving Ulyana behind. Seamountain, thank you very much. For what? The camp leader gave me a friendly smile. The cake, of course. Sure. It was at that exact moment that I understood the true meaning of the saying, keep your things to feed your cat. I have never heard of that saying. You didn't tell anybody. They thought to be surprised. Yeah, that's my boy. And now off you go to dinner. Olga waved her hand, pointing at the canteen. I stepped through the doorway slowly and started to look for a free place. It turned out there were plenty today, so I got the chance to eat all alone. There was fish with mashed potatoes for dinner. What misfortune, once again, I'd be left half hungry, and we didn't have fish for lunch. It was a fish-only day today. Haha, that's nasty, dude. I hate fish. Having pushed my plate with the fried sea dweller white, I laid my head on my hands and closed my eyes. And soon, somebody came up to the table. Hey, are you alright? I'm fine, I replied without changing my position. Just tired? Yeah, a little. That's bad. Slavia said it seriously. Of course. You remember that we were going for the hike after the dinner, don't you? Have you prepared everything? What? Where? I opened my eyes and lifted up my head instantly. Lena was standing by Slavia. The hike. She was surprised. Didn't you know? No. I put my head down on the table and covered it with my hands. If only I could sink into the ground right away. The girls remained silent. I was left alone with my thoughts for some time, and that was fine by me. Maybe I could have sat that way until the end of dinner time. But the strong voice of Olga was heard from the opposite end of the canteen. Guys, to celebrate the miraculous rescue of our friend, comrade Shurik, we baked this cake for you all. I lifted my head idly and looked towards the camp leader, but couldn't see anything beyond the pioneers' backs. Just a second. Nothing about me rescuing Shurik or gathering the ingredients for the cake. And if that's how it ought to be, well, it would be wrong to expect anything else of my camp leader. Let's go, or we won't get our share. Slavia smiled. Let's go, Lena agreed. Yeah, sure. I got up reluctantly and tagged along behind the girls. As we approached the crowd of pioneers, Olga was just putting the cake in the center of the table. And now, Camp Leader wasn't able to finish as Ulyana rushed off in the pioneer crowd and dived into the cake. She managed to nibble it a few times before she was pulled away. She was kicking and screaming. I stared blankly from the outside all this drama, Lisa smiling, Lena picking up some cream with her finger, all the furious pioneers around. I felt completely out of place here. I thought if I closed my eyes now and then opened them again, here I am, back to the safety of my apartment in front of a computer. I blinked, but nothing changed. Only the noise and the confusion became sharper. Ulyana, that's the limit. Well, in fact, behaving like this is a bit over the top, even for her. Shurik broke in the conversation, or is it a court-martial? Please, Olga, since the cake is celebrating my return, it's no big deal. He hesitated. It doesn't matter, the camp leader turned to Ulyana. And you, today I'm going to punish you to the fullest extent, so you'll behave next time. Whatever. She snorted and turned back. You won't be going onto the hike with us tonight, as if I wanted to. I was more than willing to switch places with ulyana and skip the hike instead of her, but who knew? If I had guessed beforehand, I had been the first one to go berserk and smash the damn cake. After a couple of minutes of confusion, the pioneers started to disperse. You have to get ready too. There'll be a lineup at the square in half an hour. I looked straight into the eyes of the camp leader, trying to express my attitude non-verbally, but it seems that I failed. Don't be late. Ulyana was sitting at the table when I approached her on the way to the exit. So why did you do it? She looked very upset, but she had a right to be so. I wanted to, Ulyana replied abruptly. So you're happy now? Of course I am. And you, good luck with the hiking. She smiled mischievously and sprang up and rushed out the canteen. Well, a little bit of luck wouldn't hurt. We walk and you shall reach. It was exactly this proverb that kept whirling in my head all the way down to the camp leader's cabin. Somehow I just couldn't manage to argue, to pretend that I'm sick, or to just get there without hesitation. The events of this day taught me submissiveness, although sometimes whatever was happening made no sense to me. As I walked in, I had a thought. One in fact, how should I get ready? Clothes? I only have an overcoat and a pair of jeans. Anyways, I forgot to ask whether it's going to be an overnight hike or not. I couldn't think of anything better, so I grabbed the sweater that I had on me when I arrived in the camp. The night might be fairly chilly, and shuffled slowly off to the square. All the camp was already there, although it was about 10 minutes before the time Olga had designated. I settled down near the edge and waited patiently. Night was falling. If you from the outside, what a fairly comical picture we would make. A crowd of pioneers lined up out of a sheer habit, like they were awaiting a silent command from the bronze agenda. And all of this happening in the scarlet rays of the sunset. And there he is, waving his hand, screaming, "Attack!" as roaring soldiers with red neckerchiefs charged into battle against some ghostly enemy. But Olga showed up and started talking to the agenda. It seems that everybody is here. Great. I was so tired that I couldn't even think about anything, so I ended up listening to the camp leader. Now today we'll go hiking. It is essential for every pioneer to be able to come and rescue his comrade, to offer a helping hand in the hour of need, saving them from a hopeless situation. We have to learn to do all these things together. A whisper that ran through the pioneer crowd suggested that probably this truly epic expedition would end in a clearing in the forest, several hundred feet away from the square. Somehow I thought so too. We'll walk in pairs, so if you haven't chosen a partner for yourself yet, now's the time to do so. Pioneers quickly caught on the idea and started to match in pairs. Looked like I was the only one without a pair. Slavia was enthusiastically discussing something with Olga. Lena was with Miku. Electronic reports with Shurik. Well, it might not be a bad idea to go out alone after all. Semyon. The voice of the camp leader pulled me off my thoughts. I went up to her reluctantly. I see they haven't found a partner. Seems like it. Then you'll join Xenia. She's alone too. I was struck with that special kind of despair that only a true loner can experience. So it appears that I'm left with the prickly librarian that I wouldn't risk spending a couple of hours with, even if I was paid for it. Although we both seem to be in the same boat now. I slowly approached Xenia. Well, I guess we'll be going together. She looked up at me. Don't even think that I'm glad, said Xenia seriously. Why on earth you should feel glad? I asked naively. Never mind. It would be much better if you just shut up. It couldn't get any better than this. She turned her back on me and followed the other pioneers. I still haven't seen any special reason to walk in pairs. Anyway, we were on the well-trodden forest trails, and it would be quite difficult to get lost here, even if I wanted to. Moreover, while we'd already be hiking for half an hour, we weren't rushing into the depths of the forest trying to face all the dangers that could test our courage and harden our pioneer spirits, but instead we were just walking in circles. However, if we take into account that Olga was our chief, this hike could be compared to a hobbit's march from the Shire to the Mordor. just as Zinnia insisted. I was following her at a distance in silence. The librarian seemed perfectly okay with it. Hey, don't you know when we'll reach our destination? Or what? The place where we'll settle down and set up camp. The whole point of this hike isn't to set up camp, but hiking itself. You don't get it. Yeah, it seemed that I didn't understand anything about hiking. I guess you're right, but still. I don't know. She replied sharply and quickened her pace. I cut it with her and asked, Listen, why are you always so... I was about to say mean, but stopped short. I haven't done anything bad to you, and I'm not going to. She glared at me in surprise. I always so what? Well, unsociable, kind of. Or is this something about me? Cut that stupidity out already, as you wish. I decided not to start a conversation with her for the rest of the hike. At last Olga decided to end this Sisyphean toil. It's time to halt. The place chosen turned out to be a quite large glade with a few tree trunks laid in a half circle, to make an improvised arbor with the remains of the campfire in the middle. Obviously, such hikes are a traditional of this camp, and was sent to gather firewood together with other boys. It didn't take long because there were a lot of branches and logs of various sizes lying around. Eventually, Olga lit the fire using some old newspapers. I was eager to know what was written there, but it couldn't discern anything other than Soviet symbols. Pioneers took their place on fallen log benches and started to talk about things. It seemed that the final goal of this event has been achieved. The only things missing were a pot of fish soup, aluminum cups of vodka, and a guitar. But I wouldn't be surprised if all these things would appear somehow. What are you thinking about? Slavia sat next to me. Oh, nothing special. Just enjoying the hike. I answered sarcastically. You don't look too happy. Well, I'm not about to jump for joy. Sorry about that. Okay, I won't disturb you. She sat with me for a while, but after realizing that I was in the mood of talking, she let me enjoy my introspection all alone. And all I wished for was to lie down in bed and fall asleep as soon as possible. But I was being surrounded by smoke and useless chatter of pioneers around me instead. They were cheering and laughing and in general enjoying this warm summer evening. In the far side of the glade, I noticed that Lena was arguing with Elisa intensely. Intensely and Lena seemed like complete opposites to me. Slavia had left to go somewhere after our conversation, it seems. The electronic and Shirk were trying furiously to prove something to Olga. It looks like I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. Okay, what do we gotta do? Do nothing, just stay seated or find out why they're arguing. Keep sitting. Okay. All I was doing was just sitting and watching the fire. There is a saying that claims that one could watch it forever as well as running water. But there was also some third thing here. But what was that? One could watch three things forever: burning fire, running water, and how other people work. They came later to pull me out of my daydreaming. Simeon, don't you think it's too early to relax? But what else would I need to do? Honestly, I couldn't get what Olga wanted from me. I don't know. She stopped for a moment. But if there is something to be done, then do it without hesitation. She smiled ambiguously, blah, 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 and went back to the fire to throw a few branches on. After those words, I am completely sure that she treats me like a personal slave. Or at least I'm a free labor force, which is strictly speaking the same thing. I sighed and put my head down on my hands, hoping my torments would be over for today. Someone patted me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw a shirking electronic who was sat next to me. What do you want? I asked tiredly. Don't be sad. Is there anything better to do? Look, we've been discussing about the possibilities for the advancement of the Cybernetics Club with Olga, and there's a problem. We need more guys. If you could, he hesitated, advancement, and those guys are incompatible with each other. I said nothing and started to look over the pioneers around me. Well, I don't have time. Can't you see that I'm always busy with the camp leader's errands? Yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of embarrassing how it all went today with Ulyana. I looked at him with surprise. It seems that Shirk blames himself for that cake accident. Yeah, it is. All the pioneers seem to be here, but I couldn't spot Slavia anywhere. I think she is angry with me. Who? I asked absently. Ulyana. Maybe I should apologize. No, it's not your fault. We sat silently for a while, and I stood up and said, my legs are numb. I better take a walk. They made no reply. I made a few circles around the improvised camp, and noticing the close looks of the camp leader following me. Looks like Olga couldn't wait to come up with some kind of new task for me. I haven't found Slavia anywhere. Maybe I should go try and find her. On the other hand, I felt sorry for Ulyana every time I recalled her upset face. Maybe this hike isn't the most entertaining thing ever, but seeing her all alone isn't any better either. But at the same time, I didn't want to go anywhere. Okay, I believe we got to go to Ulyana. I didn't think about Ulyana that evening at all. That thing with the cake, like it didn't even happen. Though I remember her resentful, disappointed face. Maybe in some other situation I would never have decided to go to her, but now a fine reason to leave this place and end this stupid hike has appeared. Recalling that Olga told me to prepare for new tasks, I decided not to ask her for permission. After choosing the proper moment, I disappeared in the woods. Night fell on the camp. I mentally thanked the camp leader for not researching the land too well, since this meant civilization was only a few hundred meters away. Another long walk through the night forest was not my plans. Soon I came to the square and hesitated. Wouldn't it look silly? What would I tell Ulyana? Moreover, why would I go see her in the first place? My head was so heavy and full that there was no room in it for development of any ideas. It would compare my brain at its prime to a Broadway highway full of speeding thoughts, overtaking each other and causing giant, chaotic crashes. Then and now, it's nothing but a forgotten tiny path in a distant, desolate forest, which is only used in times of absolute necessity. So it's better not to think about anything and just act. But where should I go? Maybe to her cabin? And what if she's not there? All of a sudden, something knocked me down and I fell to the asphalt. It's a good thing I had time to stretch out my arms. Otherwise, I would have broken my nose. Gotcha. I quickly got up from the ground and saw Ulyana standing before me. What are you doing? I couldn't stop myself from shouting despite my best efforts. You shouldn't be stargazing, she answered viciously. What if I had smashed my nose in and had broken my arm? I said more calmly. When either of those things happened, look, why did you always mock me? I regretted my decision to try and ease her loneliness. Was this punishment not enough for you? Can you even draw simple conclusions? It's entirely your fault. The smile instantly disappeared from Ulyana's face. What exactly is my fault? Everything. You mean I'm to blame all the time? Yes. She crossed her hands from her chest and turned away. Great. I certainly want to get away from this place as fast as possible, but it was because of you I came here. What? I guess you're quite bored given that everybody's hiking and you're here alone. Or alone here. I don't care, she giggled cheerfully. Well, if things are that way, what do you want to do? What do you mean? Well, if you came here because of me, such a thought hadn't occurred to me, although I don't really know what I came for. After such a greeting, I no longer want to do anything. Then it's up to me to choose, said Ulyana cheerfully and started to think. I stared at her for some time, but then couldn't stand it. Listen, if you're getting her or planning to, I know. Let's scare the others. We'll dress up as ghosts, for example. It's going to be so fun. I didn't find this funny in any way. Enough of that already. I began entirely, but broke up. Maybe that's not such a bad idea. After all, by the time she thinks it over and gathers all she needs, Olga and Pioneers will already be back. If I came here because of Ulyana, then I need to play along. Perhaps you're right. What? She was looking at me with her eyes wide open. Are you going to agree just like that? Well, what's wrong about that? And furthermore, if you insist. She studied me intently for several seconds and then rattled off. Excellent. Then we need some bed sheets. We want to look like real ghosts, don't we? Probably. You go get them, Ulyana announced imperiously. Where do you think I'm going to get them? Take them from your cabin, obviously. It wasn't that obvious to me. So you don't want to? She instantly made a gloomy face. Okay. I recalled the fact that there were spare sets of bed linen in Olga's wardrobe, so maybe there was nothing to worry about. We approached the cat leader's cabin. I said to Ulyana, "Wait for me here." "Sir, yes, sir." She rattled off and saluted me. It seemed Ulyana was entirely immersed in the game. I quickly found 2 clean white bed sheets. It's a shame that they're going to get smudged. "Here, take it." I handed one of the bed sheets to her. "It's too large for me," Ulyana said, twirling her hands. Blah blah blah. "No wonder, considering her height." "Give it to me." I folded the bed sheet in half and gave it back to her. "It's much better now. Follow me." She put the white cloth over her head and ran into the forest. "Wait." I threw myself after her. A few minutes later, they were near the pioneers' campfire, hiding behind the trees. Now, it was clear that the trick, harmless at first, was taking an unpleasant twist. For some reason, I was sure from the start that the hike would end before Ulyana took any reactions, and now we're standing 10 meters away from the pioneers, dressed in bed sheets. We didn't look frightening. Somehow my game minimized. Okay, well, we didn't look frightening at all, and we rather looked comical. "Get ready on my command." Wait. Actually, I was joking when I agreed to all this. Think again, it won't do any good. You'll get yourself put under house arrest until the end of the shift, and so will I. No retreat, no surrender. Are you ready? On the count of 3, I started scrolling through all the possible outcomes in my head feverishly. There weren't many of them. First one meeting, I ran out from behind the trees and started the pioneers laughing, resulting in me getting considerable scolding from the camp leader, possibly something even worse. And Ulyana is sentenced to the highest measure of punishment feasible under the laws of Pioneer Camp. Second one, I stay here and observe with the others how Ulyana runs around the glade in a bed sheet. She is sentenced to the highest measure like the first option, and I stay relatively safe. Third one, everything I do possible to prevent her from committing this act of moral vandalism, and no one suffers but her self-esteem. It's all I could have. It could have all gone so well, but either those thoughts took more than 3 seconds, or Ulyana shortened the count, so I hadn't managed to pull myself together in time when she sprang out into the glade, screaming inhumanly. As I expected, all the pioneers laughed loudly. Someone even fell from the log he was sitting on and started rolling on the ground. I tried to save the day and yelled as loud as possible so Ulyana would hear me, but not the others. "Fool, stop it! Come here!" I don't know whether it was my persuasion that worked or Ulyana understood that her performance had failed, but she ran in my direction and quickly, without pausing, hid herself in the forest. I didn't hesitate to follow her. Such a finale left a tiny chance that she won't be punished again. It's good that I didn't join on that tragical mock little act. Now I need to find Ulyana. It turned out not to be that hard. She hadn't managed to get far. Ulyana was sitting on a tree stump, crying. I stood still, hesitating. Of course, such an outcome was to be expected, but now I had absolutely no idea what to do or how to come for her. And besides, I'd gone back to the camp intentionally, and I had agreed to participate in that show. But it just got worse. As well as that, I was tired unto death. And that moment, I wished it would all just cease to exist. I just wanted to close my eyes and appear elsewhere, preferably in a quiet and peaceful place, but the sight of the sobbing Ulyana obliged me to take action. I walked up to her and sat down on the ground. "Well, what were you expecting, anyway?" I began philosophically. "It was sure to end this way. You're to blame for everything. You." Ulyana shuddered in tears. "So what would have changed if I sprung up with you back there? We both would have been laughed at, that's all. You always act this way, always." Her sobbing became louder and louder, and then she suddenly rushed at me and started pounding at my chest with her fists. The hits were not hard. It was more likely an attempt to take out the despair that had gripped Ulyana than a real wish to beat me up. "Calm down already," I said firmly. She stopped crying for a second and hugged me. Maybe nothing would have changed, but it would have been more comfortable for me if we went together. I didn't know what to say, so I just patted her on the head. "Can I just stay like this for a bit longer?" "Yes." At that time, she didn't seem like a dangerously explosive nuclear reactor in the form of a little girl, and I didn't get to finish that sentence. My mouse pad got touched. Whatever. I wasn't mad at her at all. On the contrary, it seemed like I was too I wasn't mad at her at all. On the contrary, it seemed I too was beginning to care about the failure of the ghost playing acting. Okay. It's alright, it's alright. We'll scare them properly next time. Yeah. I don't know how to feel. I don't know for how much longer we sat in silence. I stopped crying, and I didn't want to disturb her, as she had just calmed down. But I also had no desire to stay in the forest overnight. Hey, let's go back to camp. I shook her shoulder gently, but there was no answer. Ulyana had fallen asleep. Hey! I shook her harder. No effect. At that moment, I wanted to cry. Why does this always happen to me? Why do I get caught up in these foolish situations always and everywhere? Even have suddenly appeared in a weird pioneer camp in the middle of nowhere. I don't get to become a subject in an experiment, a victim of a sick cosmetic mind, or a participant in an intergalactic war on the side of a group of suicide-prone pacifists like a regular hero of science fiction. No, indeed, I had to spend the night in the forest with the little girl in my arms who was muffled in a bedsheet. I don't see a bedsheet in that picture, dude. Next time I'd rather have the monstrous experiments. I stood up and put sleeping Ulyana on my back. Maybe there was a way to wake her up, but firstly, I didn't want to. Secondly, one more burden or one less. At that point, it made no difference. It's good that she's not heavy. At that square, I stopped, put Ulyana on a bench, and threw myself down beside her, totally exhausted. Even a little girl is hard to carry for too long. The stars on the sky were shining brightly. Perhaps they give their physical light not only to me but this camp, but also shine in the city where I was born and where my old home is. It was as if pain settled in my chest. I envisioned my old flat clearly, and detestable burning started to make its way from my stomach to my throat. No, it was not wistfulness, more like a sad reminiscence. Because despite all that's happened, I felt more alive in the less than 5 days here than I had for the last several years there. And now I really wasn't sure if I wanted to get back. Well, one question still ate at me. How and why I ended up here. It flared yet... I got the hiccups. Yet again in my mind. I haven't spent much time here seeking answers or even just thinking about my situation lately. My thoughts were occupied with everyday routine affairs. Now, in order to break away and be able to wish to stay here for good, I need to understand that the nature of this place. It's just that even in a night gale in a gold cage has the right to know how and by whose will he got in there, and after that to make the choice whether to stay or not. I don't know how much longer I would have been devoted to existential thoughts, but Ulyana's loud snoring brought me back to reality. So small, but she snores so loudly. I sighed and put Ulyana on my back again and headed towards her cabin. Or two, I don't know. I had no desire to explain everything to Elisa, so I just put the sleeping Ulyana on the porch, knocked at the door, and left quickly. I approached Olga's cabin with mixed feelings. On one hand, I had done what I intended to do. I had comforted her and entertained Ulyana. On the other hand, the two crumpled bedsheets in my hand looked more like rags left over from some worn-out straitjacket. I opened the door softly and went in. Semyon! Olga was sitting at the desk, and it seemed she had been waiting for me. Do you want to explain something to me? Well, just don't scold her again. It's my fault. Just like that, I became a hero to my own surprise. My tongue acted faster than my thoughts. Perhaps some of my best traits, which even I wasn't aware of, have shown themselves. Humanity has opposed to common sense. Really. Having learned this, I chose to stick to my decision. But it was me who got the bedsheets, and I was standing behind a tree back then. Behind what tree? The campmate looked at me in astonishment. So what did you need bedsheets for? I realized my mistake. So you're not talking about the forest thing? Simon, I don't understand you. I wanted to know why you disappeared to you so mysteriously during the hike. But now I would be interested in listening to your bedsheet story. But it was impossible that she and all the others hadn't seen Ulyana's performance. The pioneers laughing out loud couldn't have been only my imagination. Olga, I'm serious. Didn't you see someone in the bedsheet sprung at you recently? So it was you? She gave me a close look. No, it wasn't me. Couldn't she just tell from my height? But you're holding the bedsheets. Yes. Couldn't understand if she was playing me for a fool or if she really didn't know what this was all about. Oh god, let's act like this conversation never happened. I'm too tired for today. Alright, go to bed. To my surprise, she readily agreed. Of course, I was astonished by such a reaction, but I decided to use the moment. I wrapped the blanket around myself and turned to face the wall, but I couldn't sleep. There were no thoughts in my head. It was aching, but I still couldn't manage to fall asleep. I rolled to the other side, and the images of the day started to flash before my eyes. I shut out my eyes and tried to drive them away, but it didn't work. Suddenly, I heard a knocking at the window. Olga seemed to be asleep. I dressed myself and walked outside. Ulyana was standing before me with a tricky smile. How did you manage to carry me to the cabin? Wasn't it hard? Not really. What have you come for? I couldn't sleep, but at that moment, bed seemed to be the only place where I could reside with no suffering, which is why Ulyana's sudden visit didn't please me at all. How was she? Did you get scolded? No, I avoided it somehow. That's great then. I always get lucky, that's for sure. My eyes began closing despite my will. It seems that slumber has finally come upon me. Look, I'm very tired. This won't take long. Close your eyes. It was the easiest thing to do and I didn't even want to know what she needed it for. Maybe that way she could leave me alone sooner. I closed my eyes. And in that moment I felt a brief kiss. My eyes opened by themselves, but Ulyana was already running away, waving her hand to me. I stood still, benumbed, and I couldn't even manage to shout anything after her. I didn't know for how long I stood like that, but eventually the night chill cleared my stupor. I shivered and went back to bed. This time I didn't want to sleep. I wanted to think it all through, but my eyes, which had begun to close as standing before Ulyana, seemed to issue a command to the rest of the body, and I fell asleep before I realized what happened. Is it over? Is it over? Finally! This was really, I didn't really expect there to be that much of the day left. So I'm just going to save. Thanks, guys, for watching. I didn't really mean for this to be a two-parter for day 5, but it's whatever. Both were really long videos or sessions. So I'll see you guys in day 6.